What's up, people, and welcome to another episode of Comics, Animations, and Movies. Well, I just got back from watching the movie Alita Battle Angel, and I wanted to give a short review, spoiler-free review with regards to how I felt about this movie. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with Alita Battle Angel, it is a movie that was produced by James Cameron, directed by Robert Rodriguez, and stars Rosa Salazar, Christoph Waltz, Jennifer Connelly, Mahershala Ali, Keean Johnson, and a myriad of other pretty well-known actors and actresses. So this is a pretty well-staffed movie, in my opinion. Now, the movie was based on a manga comic, which is titled Battle Angel Alita in many of the Western countries, including North America. And in Japan, it's titled Ganbu. And being a fan, a longtime fan of this comic, I wanted to give this review because I've been anticipating this movie for a really long time. And although I won't go over the spoilers in this episode, I did want to give an overall feeling and my perspective with regards to how I kind of look at this movie based upon my experience and my enjoyment of reading the manga. Now, before I go into any of the plot or the CGI or the acting or the music or any of that, I just wanted to give my overall feeling with regards to the movie. Did I actually enjoy it? That's the most important thing in my perspective. When I walk out, did I actually feel like, yeah, this was a good movie? And I have to admit, without nitpicking on any specific point, I had a blast watching this movie. This is a lot of fun to watch. And so, yeah, if you haven't read the manga, if you haven't watched the anime, from my perspective, it doesn't really matter. It's a lot of fun to watch. And if you don't go into it with a major critical, is this going to be an artistic masterpiece? I think this is a really fun movie. And because of this, I side more with a lot of the smaller YouTubers who have made reviews with regards to this movie, rather than the really well-known movie critics, which go into all these, is there the formula things, and does this look into the artistic quality, and does this have the dramatic whatever? I have no idea. I'm not a drama critic. All I know is I go in, hoping that there will be a certain level of expectation, and do I enjoy the movie? Yeah, I enjoyed the movie. Okay, so I don't know if you'll enjoy the movie, but I enjoyed the movie. And once again, looking at the reviews of many of these other YouTubers, I think I agree with them in why I enjoyed the movie a lot. This is an action-packed extravaganza. The CGI is amazing. And if there was, I could understand why some people might say this might be like Ready Player One, because the city does look a little bit like what you saw in Ready Player One. But I think that's okay because of the fact that it did make the city feel like it was the Iron City or the Scrapyard City. It was a little bit off from my expectations, but that's because, when you read a manga, you just get a certain image, and it's never going to be exactly the same. So instead of trying to say, is this going to meet my expectations, I just went in, saying, does this look good? And overall, it looked good. I also am very happy about the acting by Rosa Salazar. Everybody is correct. She hit this out of the park. She was really good. And in a way that I really like about how she portrayed the character. I think she did read it and enjoyed the character very much because she portrayed it very well. Alita is a very soft-hearted person with an extremely violent background. It's really hard to bring it up, but her characteristic is something that is very soft and very bright and kind of a very upbeat sort of personality. And yet she can actually go out and destroy people who are far, far more menacing than she looks. And I think she brought out that very well. The other thing is the change in how her personality went from the beginning when she was in the bewildered state to the latter when, she gets more and more understanding of her past and more confidence in herself, went really well. And as she transformed, I think the real, what you would expect Alita to be, started coming out. And that was a very well done portrayal. And the most important thing, I think, with regards to how Rosa Salazar portrayed Alita is from always, for me, Battle Angel Alita was a story from the heart. And that's very much a difference that I will make between this story and something like Ghost in the Shell, which is a much more thought-provoking story. Ghost in the Shell was always more about cat and mouse, about political thrillers, about, the character interactions of how they interact in terms of a philosophical background. You thought about things when you looked at, or when you read Ghost in the Shell or watched Ghost in the Shell. In the case of Battle Angel Alita, it wasn't really ever about the plot. It wasn't ever about the political situations that was going on. It was about Alita. And the more you read, and the further you went into the comic, you realized everything else in the background, for me anyway, didn't matter as much as what was going on directly with regards to Alita and how she reacted and interacted with everything that went around her. And I think Rosa Salazar did a really good job with this. You really centralized and focused on her character rather than everything else that was going on. And in that sense, I am very happy that they made this movie this way because of the fact that, yes, it is a 1990s story. And yes, there are a lot of other stories that have copied from the manga, including Elysium, right? The Elysium developers said they were inspired by Battle Angel Alita when they created Elysium. The problem is it came out earlier. So a lot of this, you will often say, is kind of deja vu for a lot of people. But it doesn't really matter because of the fact that what's going on in the background, what the city looks like, what the action to some extent looks like, is immaterial compared to what the character is, what Alita is, and how centralized her character is. And I think, again, Rosa Salazar did a really good job of portraying her, and I think Robert Rodriguez did a really good job of directing. Now, I have to admit, yes, I agree with a lot of people out there. Some of the dialogue was seriously campy. Yeah, I think that's the best way to say it. Think Shark Boy and Lava Girl. Yeah, it's that campy. So be aware of that. But to me, it didn't really matter because, again, it's about the character and you could get away with a lot of the camp that was in there. Some of the best lines, I think, that came out of the movie was actually given by Christoph Waltz. I don't know if it was him who modified it, but I thought a lot of the lines as a kind of a father figure was really well done. And then, so let's come to the other important thing that a lot of comic readers will have. Did she do Panzerkunst proud? And the answer is, oh, yes. My gosh, the battle scenes and the fight choreography in this was really good. And if you readers out there are Motorball fans, oh my gosh, the Motorball was good. The Motorball was amazing. And the second half, you'll know it when you see it, but the second half of the Motorball was phenomenal. I never would have expected that to happen. And I was absolutely floored with the action that came out in this movie. And what it's going to be interesting is how they're going to be able to top it off and extend this into the future. Because, of course, this is the very first movie, in which case, this is the first few chapters where Alita is actually the least strongest and the least fight experienced out of all the chapters. She gets better and better as it goes along. I'm not sure how they're going to be able to top off the action that they showed in this movie. So yeah, that will be interesting if future movies come out. But my gosh, the fight choreography and the action scenes were amazing. Okay, so those are the two main things. The music was phenomenal, the color quality, and I will say one last thing with regards to the cinematography. For those of you who liked Battle Angel Alita the way I did, as a kind of a romantic, almost beauty mixed with sadness, mixed with disturbing violence, the cinematography of this really showed that well. And so I'm really glad about the way they showed the scenes. It was really colorful, but brutal at the same time. Okay, so with that out of the way, I do want to talk about one specific point that a lot of reviewers had concern about. And this is with regards to the overall continuity of the story. And I have to admit, as much as I understand their criticism and I agree with their criticism, I have to thank Robert Rodriguez for being bold enough to have taken that very risky step to basically be faithful to the manga. And it made me realize, watching this movie and listening to the criticism, one of the major reasons why manga comics have a hard time being adapted to live action movie. And this isn't seen in a lot of other mediums. It's not seen in novels. It's not seen in, a lot of times, just anime only stories. And it's not even seen in a lot of Western comics. One of the biggest problems with manga comics being adapted to live action movie has nothing to do with the graphics, has nothing to do with the culture. It has to do with the way manga comics are written. And every one of us who like manga comics understand this. Let's take Naruto. How many chapters did it have? It had like 600 chapters or something. Dragon Ball had 300 chapters. One Piece has over 900 chapters. And we know Battle Angel Alita is way over 100 chapters. Probably around in the 200 plus chapters in the storyline. And so that is something that we appreciate as readers of manga, that this is not supposed to be a complete package, right? It's not supposed to end in any short manner, right? This, if you compare this to something like Lord of the Rings, yes, Lord of the Rings is a fantasy type of setting as well, and it comes from a novel as well. But the difference between a novel and a manga is novels end. I mean, even George R.R. Martin novels end and are somewhat self-contained within the novel. We all know in manga that sometimes you could have 100 plus volumes of books of the manga, and one manga just abruptly ends right in the middle of a story, and it just continues on in the next volume. And it never really completely ends until an arc ends maybe 5, 6, 7, sometimes 10 volumes later. And so now, how do you do this and fit this into a 2-hour movie? It's really hard. And the other thing is that manga takes the advantage of being such a long volume. The advantage of manga is that it takes its time to create its world, to create its stories. And of course, within a short arc, certain stories might end, but a lot of the story remains unsolved, right? I mean, it's kind of like a mystery. And one of the things that manga readers love is, as they continue to read more and more about the manga, you start getting more and more information about the character and its story. But in the beginning, you are not told everything. And in fact, most manga readers enjoy the fact of there being a slow reveal. And my biggest worry when I made one of the previous trailer reviews was that I think the mainstream audience is not going to enjoy a slow reveal. And so one thing you'll notice here is that Robert Rodriguez really tried to please a lot of people. And because of that, yes, the movie feels rushed in a lot of areas, but that's because of the fact that a lot of people are going to say, yes, the movie needs to close a lot of the loose ends very quickly within 2 hours. So things that we enjoyed as a slow reveal are extremely rushed in the movie. And I do have to admit, certain parts are like, wow, this is like moving forward very quickly. Like the character development of Alita in the beginning, it's like, wow, we're already there. And then she's already running around, and she doesn't even have time to be bewildered sometimes because, like, you don't have time. We have to rush to the next part of the plot. And that's because of the fact that, of course, Robert Rodriguez is trying to please the mainstream audience by tying up as much of the plot as possible so that the movie feels somewhat complete. But at the same time, he's being faithful. He has to be faithful to the manga audience because this was stated to being the first faithful live action rendition of a manga comic. And you can't be faithful to the manga comic if the manga is going to keep everything in loose end. And so the criticisms that he received as, the movie being rushed and at the same time the movie is not complete is basically because he's trying to please everybody at the same time. He's trying to please the manga readers, he's trying to please the anime viewers, and he's also trying to please the mainstream audience. And by doing that, since all three are somewhat conflicted and in many ways, everybody notices the shortcomings of him trying to please the other audience. And once you understand that, then you're just like, yeah, I can see why there's some limitations and shortcomings in this movie. But you understand why. It's because, again, he's trying to please some of the other audience. A good example, without giving any spoilers, is Jennifer Connelly's portrayal of Chiren. A lot of reviewers said, and it's true, it's kind of a waste of using somebody as skilled as Jennifer Connelly for such a small role. But you can't help that if you want to be faithful to the OVA, because Chiren is just a small character that was thrown in only in the OVA anime that doesn't even exist in the source material. And so if you want to be faithful to the OVA and not try to change her in a dramatic way, then she only has a very small spot in the movie. And people are like, you need to grow this and develop this. But by doing so, he would end up being unfaithful to the anime. And so there's a lot of things where if you look at it and say, okay, I can understand why he did it this way. I can understand why he did it that way. Certain things, certain key points that had to be in there in the movie, for being a movie, certain things that had to be in there to be faithful to the manga and certain things that had to be there to be faithful to the anime. And so I can understand a lot of the criticisms that he's receiving because he's trying to please multiple different conflicting audience. So for me, I don't really care. A lot of that, it didn't really matter anymore. Was Mahershala Ali's role, could it have been better? Yeah, if you want to change the entire Battle Angel Alita storyline. But we all know that although Vector plays a key role, it is a small role compared to everything else. Okay, so overall, I just enjoyed the movie a lot. And in the beginning, I almost got teary-eyed, not because of the fact that it was a wonderful movie and a very good portrayal. It was just so heartening to see Alita in a live-action movie. I was like, oh my gosh, I finally got a chance to see her in a live-action movie, and it's really well portrayed. The berserker body is well portrayed. All of those things that we talk about, as key points in the manga, I think were pretty well portrayed with the exception of a few characters. Now, before anybody starts thinking, oh, it must be the Hugo character, I actually didn't mind the Hugo character, and I don't blame Keean Johnson at all with regards to his portrayal of Hugo. In many ways, the producers actually stayed somewhat faithful to the comic. And as you know, in the comic, it is a very rushed relationship. But it works because of the fact that people have to understand why Alita was very clingy to Hugo, even in the comic, was because of the fact that she was emotionally distraught from being amnesiac. She had nothing to hang on to. There was nothing she could remember. And then Hugo came up and was supportive of her, and that made her extremely clingy to two people, Dyson Ido as a father figure and Hugo as a love interest, and I thought that that was done relatively well. Yeah, sure, there are some certain things that could have been done better, but overall it wasn't too bad. You know, there was one part with regards to a certain scene which I was like, yeah, I am very questioning of this, but that's not due to Hugo. That's due to another issue that kind of got overlapped into that entire Hugo story. But overall, I thought the love interest went relatively well. And again, I don't want to go into details here because this is a spoiler-free video. So yeah, if you want to assume that you're going to get a huge philosophical, artistic, very drama rendition of a movie, no, it's not going to happen here because of the fact that to some extent, it's because, as Chris Stuckman said, I do agree with him, this movie is unapologetically anime-based or manga-based in my perspective. And because of that, there are certain characteristics that a lot of movie reviewers may feel as this is not really movie. But you can't have it both ways, right? A lot of people criticize previous live action adaptation of manga because they say it's not faithful to the manga. And then when you become faithful to the manga, you can't criticize it for being faithful to the manga, at least in my opinion. So the bottom line is forget the manga, forget the story to some extent, Just go in and ask yourself, did you enjoy the movie? Do you enjoy the movie? And when I thought about it that way, yeah, I enjoyed the movie a lot. It was a thrilling ride. It took a while. In the beginning, I had to admit, since things were rushed, I had a hard time kind of attaching myself to the movie. But somewhere about 20 minutes in, about 30 minutes in, it started becoming a very thrilling joyride. And so in summary, I'm not going to give this movie a rating because I'm not really good at reviewing movies. I'm just going to give it, did I enjoy the movie or did I not? And I have to say I had a blast watching this movie. And as a manga reader, I will say this. If you want to see specific plots go specific ways exactly as you expected in the manga or exactly as you expected in the anime, then you may be disappointed. But to me, it wasn't that bad because of the fact that even as an avid manga reader who read hundreds of chapters of Alita Battle Angel, there were scenes in there that was different enough that it actually made it a lot more enjoyable. I was like, oh, this is an interesting interpretation. So if you look at it that way, in the sense that even if the plot was changed, do we see a good representation of Alita as a character? Do we see a good representation of Ido as a character? Do we see their interrelationships going well? And does the overall kind of environment work? And my feeling is yes, I think it does, in my perspective, again. So anyway, that's my review of Battle Angel Alita. I'll do 2 more reviews in the future because of the fact that there are 2 key things with regards to what I saw in this movie that are seriously worrisome to me, not for this movie, but for potentially future movies that may come up. But I will go over them in the last review because of the fact that there will be serious spoilers with regards to how the movie represents the comic. But anyway, thank you very much for watching this. I guess this turned out to be a lot longer a review than I expected, and sorry for me to blab on for so long. That tends to be a tendency for me. If you have any comments, please post in the comment section below. If you saw the movie, what do you think about it? And please, for a lot of you who have read the comic and who have seen the movie, please keep your comments somewhat spoiler-free in this particular one because of the fact that people who may read the comments may not have read the comic, nor have watched the anime, nor have seen the movie. I'll make some other versions of spoiler-rich reviews later on. Anyway, that's about it for me. I hope you enjoyed the movie. And until then, happy comic reading, happy anime watching, happy movie watching, and as always, have a nice day, everyone.